Welcome to Brand Rescue, a public relations podcast where we dig into the truth about what it's actually like to work in PR. I'm Whitney Lee. I ditched my fancy corporate job to freelance in small-town USA and ended up building an international PR agency. On this show, we skip all the BS and sugarcoating and get into the conversations our industry should be having. It's all real talk, and we love a hot take. Glad you're here. Let's get to it. Hey, friends. Hope you are having a great week. It's actually a Friday today when I'm recording this, so I feel on top of the world. We actually don't do client meetings on a Friday unless we have to. Friday for our team is the day that we sweep up the dust. It's like we got to get our Asana updated, finish up any tasks, get all the emails out of our inbox, like really just clean up our lives so that we can start fresh on Monday and start tackling everything. And you know what? I freaking crushed it today. I woke up early and Fridays are always no makeup, no anything, like busted Whitney, but I sit at my desk and I just crank it out because I love going into the weekend feeling light as a feather. And that's what I'm going to do this weekend. So, today's episode is for all of my people out there that are self-employed. Maybe you own your own agency. Maybe it's a big agency. Maybe it's a small agency. Maybe you are a solo practitioner. That's the fancy term for freelancer. I feel like you can use either one, however you want to identify. But this is for anybody that is working for themselves. I feel like this episode will definitely maybe be something you can relate to. And I think it is more relatable even than I realized until I had a conversation recently, which is what sparked this episode. And I was like, you know what? It's not just us. So this is a great topic for an episode. And I'd love to know out there if this is just a resounding yes for everybody. I will say I don't really prep these episodes. I pick a topic and I actually find that the episode gets more engagement, gets more listens and everything if I just talk, because it is completely authentic. I don't even turn the camera on for these because I'm literally just yapping. And I told my team, they're like, you should just turn the camera on so we can like take video snippets and use it for social. And I'm like, no. I'm like staring off into outer space. I'm sitting in a really awkward position. I'm thinking, right? It's hard for me to speak authentically and just share my thoughts and also be making eye contact with the camera and looking on. So that's why I don't do videos for these. I do for interviews, obviously, but for these, I just fly off the cuff. And sometimes I even say stuff that I'm like, wow, I did not know that was in my brain. So maybe this is therapeutic for me. If you get some level of therapeutic benefit from this show, I hope you do. So okay, let's talk about this. The disease that every self-employed person faces. Obviously, it's not a physical disease. It is a disease of the mind. Okay. And I'm finding that it is very much more common than maybe I realized. And, I feel like I'm pretty self aware when I feel some type of way. I tell myself, like, lots of people feel this way, right? Like, I'm scared to do this, or I don't think I'm good at that, or I'm having imposter syndrome. And I just tell myself, I'm like, Whitney, lots of people feel that way, you know? And I think that's why people perceive me as being confident, because I just push forward anyway. Because I think to myself, like, lots of people feel this way and they keep going. So why don't I? Same thing when I ran a half marathon. I hate to run. I don't even like to freaking run, but I ran a half marathon because I'm an idiot. And I just have this like overwhelming desire to see how far I can push myself sometimes. And, I told myself if I needed to slow down and walk, and it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't train at all. By the way, for any runners out there, I did not train. I don't like to run. I don't like it. I never have. I played college soccer and I don't like to run. Anyway, I told myself I would walk if I got so tired. It's not that big of a deal. I could just walk. Oh, heck no. I got out there and saw everybody else still jogging. I saw women with strollers. and old ladies jogging. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to jog. And I jogged the whole thing. So anyway, that's random side story. But we, we sometimes say, I know other people feel this way. And if they can keep pushing, then I can keep pushing, right? That's the moral of the terrible half marathon that I'll never ever do again. But this disease, I don't even have a name for it, but let me tell you a little backstory about kind of how the conversation went. I was chatting with a dear friend of mine who is also he is a solo practitioner in public relations, and he's been doing this for just a couple years, right? So I got about a decade on him in regards to being self-employed. And he actually reached out and we were talking about like lack of motivation on some days, and we were chit-chatting about, how what do you do when you feel lack of motivation and like it's everything's on you. Now I have a team, but he is still early on in the stages, solo, so he does not. So he was kind of like, how do you manage when you are handling everything and you have no motivation? So we were talking a little bit about that, and I said, and then the conversation kind of weaved into anxiety. Okay. I don't even like the word anxiety, and I don't like self-diagnosing. Like, I am an anxious person. I refuse to subscribe to that, but I definitely face anxiety. I always have, even when I was in high school, when I was playing sports, like I have this anxiety, and I know that it comes from a place of perfection. Okay, so actually, I'm gonna pull up this text message thread and read to you some of the stuff. You know, he was actually saying he felt guilty for taking some time to breathe. This is actually what he says, for taking some time to breathe, but it feels like a lack of motivation. And I wrote back and said, I understand so, with like a million O's, deeply. I said, the moment I'm not freaking balls to the wall, I feel like something is wrong. Not wrong with me, like wrong in the business. I feel like something's wrong, like I'm not working hard, or this is going to come back to bite me for relaxing and that I'll regret this. So I search for things to fill my time so I'm quote unquote being productive. Okay, let me read my toxic Whitney text message to you again. At least I'm self-aware about it. When I first started the business, I was not self-aware. The moment I'm not balls to the wall, I feel like something is wrong, like I'm not working hard, or this is going to come back to bite me for relaxing and I'll regret this. So I search for things to fill my time so I'm quote unquote being productive. Before we dissect all of this, let me continue the conversation. He writes back in all caps, yes, exactly. Here's my next response. I also have this belief that if I don't stay on my game so hard, all caps, that my business will fall apart. That God/universe only rewards people who work really hard. So I have to show up or I might lose the privilege that I have of owning my own business. And he says, my exact thought process. And that's when I was like, you know what? I'm really not alone. Go through that text again. I also have this belief that if I don't stay on my game so hard that my business will fall apart. That God and universe only rewards people who work really, really hard. So I have to show up or I might lose the privilege that I have of owning my own business. He says, my exact thought process. I said, yeah, it's the fear of having it all fall apart or being taken away. And then I started to be like, I came to my senses and I said, this is all normal business owner fears, but still, it's like a disease of the mind. He says, I'm glad I'm not alone in this feeling. I kind of feel like I need to just disconnect from everything for like a day and lay on the beach and just have a total mental reset. I said, I feel ashamed of myself one day when I had a dinner, like a nighttime event for work. And so I had to in order to go to the gym, I had to, like, go to the gym earlier that day, and I, like, shamed myself to death for leaving my desk, like, an hour early to do a quick workout so I could get back and go to a work event that night, you know? Like, I shamed myself to death of, like, you're in my mind, I'm literally saying to myself, "You're a poor leader. Everyone else on your team is working right now, and you are skipping off to head to the gym," even though I know that nighttime event is totally work, like it's literally meeting a potential client and you know what I mean? Like it is absolutely work, but for some reason, this is me going off, this is not my text message anymore. This is just me talking. For some reason, if I'm not at a desk from 8 to 5, 9 to 5, in my mind, I am shaming myself to death. Y'all, I left corporate America 13 years ago because I wanted to get away from the handcuffs of being at that desk. But in my mind, I just handcuffed myself to a different desk. You see what I mean? Yeah, I have all the freedom in the world, right? Everyone always says it must be so nice to own your own business. You just do whatever you want all day and you don't have a boss. Like, wow. And your team just does everything for you. You don't even have to do anything. Okay. Okay, that would be nice. However, that is not the reality of it. And let's be clear, and I tell people this, I didn't hire team members so that I could freaking chill all day. I have no chill in me. If you can't tell, I have no chill. I have this constant desire, like I said about the marathon, half marathon. I have this constant desire to see exactly how far I can push myself until I'm literally ready to break. And you know why? It's because my biggest fear in life is not living up to my potential. My biggest fear in life is getting 30 years down the road and looking back and being like, I had so much opportunity and I was lazy. And I just watched the years go by. I even still look at my 20s sometimes and think that. When I was in college, I did not do an internship. I did for my master's because they forced me to. I did not do an internship. Um, I I I started my own business when I was like, or I left corporate world at 26, okay? And I still think back to myself sometimes and mentally shame myself that I could have done more in my 20s. And if only I had done more, I'd be further along than I am right now at 39. Okay, this is not healthy thinking. I am not sharing all of this with y'all to at all normalize this, or maybe it needs to be normalized from a sense that like you're not alone if you feel and think this way. Um, maybe you're much more chill than me and you're listening to this and you're like, "Oh my god, why is she so high strung?" I don't know. I don't know why I'm so high strung and like life, if I've learned anything, life is all about learning to coach yourself. When you hear these thoughts in your brain, exactly the things I was telling my friend, like when you hear these thoughts in your brain, you have to remind yourself that like your feelings are not always truth, right? Just because something comes to your brain does not mean that is truth. Okay? So I do think that I've become very self-aware of this toxic way of thinking and this toxic way of treating myself, but that still doesn't make it go away. And I'm here to say I don't really know how to make it go away. Or maybe I'm here to say, like, I don't know if it ever will go away. Maybe it's just something that really driven people are always going to face. I don't know. Um, but I think self awareness is the first step. And also learning to mentally coach yourself. I think it's wonderful to have outside support from other people that are like, Whitney, you're doing great. Whitney, don't be so hard on yourself. Whitney, and help you see your blind spots. I'm a big believer in that. But I'm also a believer in that sometimes we look for answers outside of ourselves, especially women. Ladies, I'm talking to us, okay? We're freaking reading horoscopes. We're doing quizzes in freaking Cosmopolitan. We're playing MASH. Come on. Okay. I'm showing my age. If you played MASH. Yeah, we are looking for answers and guidance from everyone else except for ourselves. I I have a friend that literally like goes to psychics all the time, and she'll pay people on Etsy to do readings for her and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? To each their own. I'm kind of into woo woo myself. I'm a Leo, and I'm so intrigued by learning about astrology. I'm also a Christian, so I believe that God made the stars because my dad's like, you can't believe in both. I'm like, why not? God made the stars, so I don't if God made the stars and the stars are, um affecting our personality or whatever, why can't it be both? Maybe that's for a whole other episode. But we as women are known to seek validation, guidance, answers from everyone else except for ourselves. I also believe, and y'all have heard me preach this if you've listened to a lot of the podcasts, that a lot of women, I know there's a lot of women listening to this because the PR space is like heavily dominated by women. Um, and obviously I'm a big fan of women, but this is why women end up taking business partners sometimes because they feel lost and they need somebody to bounce ideas off of. And they need somebody to help support them so they don't feel like they're carrying it all on their own, right? So then they find a business partner and that changes an entire dynamic of a business, okay? Especially when you both need to get paid what you're worth, Um, just the infrastructure of having a business partner is very, very challenging. So I encourage all of you out there, if you are thinking a business owner, if you own a business or maybe you're a freelancer and you're thinking, maybe I need a partner so I can figure out, I can have a support system. You can find support in other ways. And also, I beg of you, you need to look inside yourself and be like, I'm way more capable than I'm giving myself credit for. Okay. So I think we have to just be really self aware and also grow the ability to coach ourselves through some of this toxic behavior, you know? And again, like me leaving 1 hour early to run to the gym, do the fastest workout of my life. Like me taking care of my body is also me taking care of my mind, right? And my team and our clients need me to be mentally healthy, right? So, is me going to the gym for 1 hour, um, me f being lazy or entitled or whatever? Is that me skipping, or is it actually doing the right thing for myself so that I can still take care of my body and my mind, you know? And those are the things I try to push back on my own toxic thoughts when I go down this route of like, "How many hours did you sit at a desk this week, Whitney?" And if it's less than 40, then I'm, like, mentally shaming myself, okay? Um, and we can't do that to ourselves. And, what I told my friend was, and this is literally what I wrote to him, "It's something we will always struggle with as long as we are at the helm, even when you have a team helping you." I do. I have an amazing team full of women that could literally handle all of this if I had a full-blown mentee bee and had to check out for a day or even a week or a month. I have that much faith in my team. Like, they could totally handle everything, so why do I put this level of pressure on myself to keep my foot so hard on the gas that I can't let go? It is a scarcity mindset, which I know I have struggled with my whole life, but I was also raised by a man who has severe scarcity mindset, and he does, and I tell him that now. I have I have healed a lot from that, but I also think a scarcity mindset is very, very deeply ingrained. They say that we form our core beliefs about ourselves and the world by the time we are 7 years old. So, by the time you are 7, you have decided what you think and feel about yourself and what you think and feel about the world. So that goes into, a scarcity mindset or a lack of confidence or things of that nature. So I think there's nothing wrong with seeking outside support. And actually, that's one thing I love so much about this podcast and some of the groups that I'm in. Being connected with other people in the industry and especially other agency owners is so, so helpful for my mental health. Like to find commonalities with other people that are living and going through the same thing. It's like we become immediate besties because we have like shared trauma. But that's the disease of the mind. And I'd be interested to know if anybody out there besides me and my friend. Actually, I know there's a lot of people out there because I have a lot of agency owner friends. I'm wondering if any of y'all out there listening to that text exchange between him and I heard that and you were like, "Oh my God, that moment when you just feel so seen that you're like, wow, I never knew someone felt exactly the way I feel." Exactly. Like you read a text and you're like, how are they inside of my brain right now? Like that's how I feel sometimes when I connect with other agency owners. So I think that we have to give ourselves grace. We have to learn to mentally coach ourselves down off these ridiculous cliffs that we build ourselves. Like and stop shaming ourselves when we need to handle something personally or entrust our team with something and fully step away from it. Sometimes I have all the faith in the world of them, but I'll hand them stuff and then I'll still check in on it. And you know why? It's not because I don't trust that they can do it. It's because I don't want them to not feel supported. I know what it's like when you're trying to do something and you have no one to ask for help. I know that feeling. Hello, uh, I left corporate America 13 years ago, and I tell them all the time, when I don't know how to do something, what do you think I do? Ask my boss? Uh, I don't know. I freaking Google it. Now you can ask ChatGPT and Gemini and whatever, Claude, all these other things, but I'd never had any of those tools. So what do you think that I did when I didn't know what to do? I freaking just figured it out. I made the best decision I could make and I moved forward with it. And it made me realize I can figure things out. But I know that feeling of feeling like I don't know what to do next and I don't have anyone to ask. And I feel like I don't want them to feel that way. And then again, I go into mental shaming of I'm a bad leader if I push them out and then I'm like, figure it out. Bye. Like that's poor leadership, Whitney. You're a poor leader. They need your help and you weren't there to support them. Like these are the terrible thoughts that I think to myself sometimes. But then the other part of me is like, no, Whitney, they need to learn to figure crap out on their own. They are 1,000,000% capable. And every time you step in and say, oh, can I help? Can I help? Like, or is everybody good? Is everybody good? I don't say it like that. That's not how I roll. But you know what I mean? If I step in all the time, hey, just checking in. Do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? Then they're never going to build that same belief in themselves that I have in me. The belief that's like, no, I don't need Whitney. I can figure this out. Like I got this. Even if I gotta Google, I gotta sit here for a few minutes and test and screw something up or click and click out, click around and find out. They can figure it out. And I'm actually being a bad boss if I step in and save the day every single time. So it's reframing stuff like that in my mind. Anyway, this has just been therapeutic for me to word vomit that all over y'all. And again, if anyone out there can relate or has this same disease, I would love to connect with you and hear like if you felt seen by this, you are not alone. That's how I'll end the episode. If you listen to all of this and you're like, oh my God, this is me, you are 1000% not alone, and we are going to battle this and have to learn how to give ourselves grace and coach ourselves through it. So, would love to hear from y'all. Always shoot me a DM on Instagram. Connect with me. This is like my favorite part of the podcast. So I love it when y'all reach out. I hope you have a great week. Hopefully an anxiety-free week. I think there's a difference between pushing yourself ridiculously and being productive. You know what I mean? Have a productive, amazing, anxiety-free week, y'all. We'll see you on the next episode. That's it for today. If something in this episode landed for you, share it, screenshot it, and send it to someone in the industry who needs to hear it. And come connect with me personally on Instagram at @the Whitney Lee, or you can find me on LinkedIn. See you next week.